On today's episode, we are talking about what you need to do before you even get to editing. Before you even get to editing, you need to be organizing your stuff. And I'm going to give you a couple of tools that I think are really useful to get get all your footage in, organized, and packaged so that you can get right into editing, which is probably one of the most important things you can do. So there's an app called PosteHaste. This is an amazing app that works well for a lot of things. Now, this app right here, you can set up templates, and there's already pre-built in ones. So if you're going to be doing audio, they have audio. There's backups. You can even have After Effects files, and when you create these files, it gives you an After Effects folder with the render file in your template, as well as a template for your Illustrator files and your Photoshop files. And so it's really useful for, if let's say you do a lot of big project editings, or if you're in a company, this is a super effective way to get your file structure up and put together before you even start editing, so you're not having to go back and make folders, the same folders structure every single time. I really love it. I've been using it for probably about a year now, and it's been super effective. Now, what I do for my regular kind of vlogs, I've got a backup folder, I have assets, and then I have a final folder, and then I have a untitled library that you can do. Now, you can create your own folder. You just go in and add the plus sign, and you can remove templates there. And this can work for anything. Like there's even there's a web design setup here. This is a great tool for you guys. Now, when you go to new project, you can set up your project template for whatever it is. I have my little Dan logs, and you can set it. These are the parameters that you have. You have your project numbers, your client name, your project name, your date, and the editor. And when it creates it, so because I know that I'm going to be editing, it's not a big deal, but I do want the date and project number. If you are going to, let's say you do something for the entire year and you want to keep track of that, it's a great, it'll just increment as you do it, but I'm just going to keep it as the edit bay, because that's what we're working on today. And I'm going to go ahead and create project. So when you click create project, it's going to bring up where you want to save it. Now, I edit everything off of an external hard drive. I don't do anything on my Mac. It's just something that I do so that I'm not keeping files directly onto my hard drive. Now, you can, when you create these post-haste files, you can then make a duplicate or have something set up for backups, and for if you have a RAID. This is again a huge tool. Now, I'm just going to go in and save that. And once it's created, it's going to open it up for me. And one of the first things I do is I'll rename the library. So obviously this one is going to be talking about how to set up a edit. So that's going to be the title of this library. And when I will be discussing what a library is in another video. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Now, again, I have my finals, assets, and backups. For a while in my assets folder, I had music, photos, and that sort of thing. But for my purposes, because I wasn't doing a ton of stuff there, I just changed it to just assets. So anything I need to do for a project that's for my personal projects, I'm just gonna throw it into the assets folder. However, if I'm doing it for a client, it's gonna be a little bit different, because I'm gonna want things divided up. I'm gonna want to make sure that I give the files to whoever I'm going to be working with, and they're going to dump all that footage into those specified folders. That way I have that there, and I can just import that. And because when you import from a folder in Final Cut, it'll add that folder as a keyword collection, and so then I can just go in and it'll automatically show up. So once I have this backup, this is one of the best things I recommend. That way I can just open up the edit, or the library for Final Cut. And it's going to boot up Final Cut. So because I haven't shot anything in the past couple of days, I went and shot some quick footage, nothing to edit really. I just wanted to show an example of what I do. So let's say you shot a project, you can take your memory card, and when you insert it to Final Cut to import the content, something very important that I do to make sure that I'm backing up content. Now, a lot of people will rip that footage off and store all that footage there, which you can definitely do. But because I'm not meticulously organizing all my content, which I want to do at some point, but I haven't done yet. What I'm going to do, there's something over here called Create Archive, and that you want to do is you're going to create this camera archive. Now, what Final Cut does is it packages it into a package file. So it doesn't matter how many files you have, it's going to create one file with all that content and all the information from the camera into that file. What you're going to do is you're going to find your project, go to your backups, and then I'm going to create that backup. So it's going to quickly render it, and then you can quickly import while it's creating that backup for Final Cut. And then once you're there, and then let's say if you want to import that file, let's say something happens to your footage or anything like that, what you can do is you go to File, and then go to Import, and you can always re-import from, you see this re-import from Camera Archive, you can always do that. So if I come into import and I go to my hard drive and I come over here to backups, I'm going to have the backup. It's going to open up that file from the Lumix, and it's going to have all that content. So I have a couple of photos in here that I took of my little girl that I even recorded. So everything that was on that card is going to be stored, which is, I mean, really effective. All that data, metadata from your camera, everything else that you may have, you would want from your camera is going to be in this camera archive. And it's only going to show up as like a packaged content, kind of like your library. So it's, so when you go to the actual hard drive and you look at it, it's not going to show up like regular. So it's going to see this Lumix, and you can rename it to whatever. You could rename it to the date, which I didn't do, but you could rename it to, to the date that you created it. So 17, and you can say what the project is. And now this is this package content. You would have to go right click on it, and you would have to say show package content to be able to see all that information there. Again, and now I'll link to a video that Ripple Training did that talks about how you can do a little bit of a workaround to be able to do that. Because normally you would have to plug in your memory card, and it only works if you plug in your memory card for the first time to create that camera archive. So that's why it's really important to do that when you're first plugging your memory card. But I'm going to leave a link to a video that Ripple Training does that talks about how you can, there's a little bit of a workaround and change a couple of things and still get that camera archive that you want. And maybe it's really interesting. I'll do a video, but because they've done one already, I'm going to link to them, and they're a great resource as well. So that's something that I do. Next week, we're going to talk about what there is in Final Cut, like what all these panels are, and how I use them. So thanks again for joining us. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and be sure to share it to someone that, if you learned something new, share it with one of your friends. I really appreciate you guys hopping in at this edit bay. I'm really excited to make these videos for you. I really apologize for not getting this out yesterday. My little girl actually bit her lip, and it was a sad day for her. So I'm doing it today. So thanks for sticking there, and I will see you guys next time.